While visiting my mom at the hospice during the final year, I definitely realized the critical role of health, because there weren't only old people there, but also people perhaps younger than me or as young as 30. I focus on inflammation, so especially with supplements, for example, curcumin, turmeric, berberine should be anti-inflammatory, boswellia, serrata, even MSM, methylsulfonyl methane, and so on. The mindset is critical. So we shouldn't focus just on the body. The focus should be, let's say, equally on the mind, in my opinion, and the spiritual development.
Zdeněk Šípek, number 2 on the Longevity World Cup. And you're here to tell us what your secret is. So, Zdeněk, welcome to the show. And my
Thank
first
you.
question to you is, what's your secret?
What's my secret? Oh, maybe discipline and persistent work from day to day. That's the secret, I am afraid. Nothing really that special. And yeah, diligent work. That's it.
Okay, that makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. Let's go into that. Okay, so who are you?
Okay,
How did you end up here?
Yeah. So first of all, I'm from the Czech Republic, from a small town of 24,000 called Chrudim in Pardubice region. It's like 100 kilometers to the east from Prague. And concerning my profession, I am a teacher at high school. I mostly teach English, but I studied also history and psychology. And concerning my longevity journey, I was a competitive tennis player, but only until the age of 13. And then I have to say my fitness severely slipped through while going through grammar school and later university. And I decided to do something about it as late as at the age of 28, when I did some research and found out about P90 and later P90X. So I started P90 because that's much easier, and I was quite out of shape, being somehow overweight. I went ahead with it like for 50 days with zero equipment, using plastic water bottles for dumbbells and so on. And then I bought some equipment and switched to P90X. And that X meaning extreme. And it is extreme, definitely at the beginning, because, for example, Dave Pascoe mentioned it, going through it many times too, I believe, as I have done so far. So I bought some equipment and went through the first round of 90 days. That's Power 90 Extreme, meaning that it's for 90 days. And there's everything there from fitness, so strength training, plyometrics, cardio, yoga, stretching. So it's great that it learns you everything, all the basic areas of fitness. And I continued with it like for 2-3 years, and then mixing it with other Beachbody fitness routines, meaning video routines, so you can do it at home, like Chelin Extreme, using abs routines. And then especially Insanity, led by Sean T. And that's very hit focused. And these are very, I would say, even perhaps grueling hit sessions. So there is a warm up, then some basic 2-3 hit rounds, and then the main workout. And that's in some cases for 30 minutes of more or less non-stop hit sessions with like a minute or two gaps between them. So it's not your typical Norwegian 4x4. It's like 4x12 or 20 in some cases. That helped me a lot. And then after a few years, I was in a solid shape, not like at this time, but in a quite solid shape. And I added running that culminated with like 30, 40, 10-kilometer runs and two half marathons. But the results were just like average. I think that my best 10K was 44 minutes 30 seconds, so nothing exceedingly fast. And then further I also continued with things like yoga for recovery. Then I had some health problems, so the major one being in 2018 a complicated appendectomy, and I had quite a long recovery from it.
Tell me, what is that?
That's the inflammation of the appendix. Yeah, it was pretty complicated. They weren't able to diagnose it at first, and they had to treat it with antibiotics intravenously for several weeks. And then after 3 additional months, there was the actual surgery. And then once again, the recovery. So it was like I was out half a year. So that was my first like health crisis. And after that, I really didn't return uh, to running. I also did Krav Maga for a year or two. That's Israeli self-defense, but
Me too.
I wouldn't recommend it for longevity purposes.
Well, why not?
Why not? Because there is a high risk of injury being hit into your head quite some quite some time, and so on.
Okay.
Yeah, these concussions to the brain when training falls, for example, and so on, bruised all the time. So I don't think that's good for longevity.
So
It's
actually, it's interesting. I've been doing a lot of fighting sports and martial arts throughout my life, and then when I was doing Krav Maga, similarly 1-2 years in university, that was very different because our instructor did not make us compete and fight. We were kind of just learning scenarios. So I found it much safer than, let's say, what kickboxing is. But you might have been in a different place.
yeah, a different instructor, definitely. So we were training everything, even like face-to-face combat. With we used helmet, we used MMA gloves, but that's about all. So and it's like for 2-3 minute rounds, and of course you get hit and you want to hit back, so the instructor has to calm us down sometimes. Yeah, so it was rough sometimes, I would say. So that's another thing. But after the surgery I continued more with things like strength training and possibly calisthenics and things like that. And
Street workout.
yeah, street workouts. Yeah, okay. And there were also problems in the family with my parents. In the case of father, he was already dead, dying from cancer, and also my mom was diagnosed with cancer at the period, and I finally lost her like a year ago. But it helped me a lot to learn about things like supplements, off-label drugs use, and things like that, and also to an extent be wary of relying too much on your doctor's opinions, because they can make serious mistakes, as in my mother's case, because there was a needless immunosuppression probably leading to the cancer, and then a failed surgery. So you have to pick your doctors very wisely and carefully and ask for 2-3 opinions before deciding a major thing, and always do your own research. And then while visiting my mom at the hospice during the final year, I definitely realized the critical role of health, because there weren't only old people there, but also people perhaps younger than me or as young as 30. So that was another, let's say, turning point in my longevity journey. I also found out about the Brian Johnson blueprint at the period, and it seemed like a good idea. But once again, not to take it without criticism, but emulate it for my purposes based on my own research and situation. So that's how I, let's say, ended at this spot briefly.
That's perfect. That's perfect. You see, there was a recent study that they had three groups of people. One was with doctors, one was with doctors plus AI, so they can use an AI, and one was AI only, and then they have to diagnose patients. And it turned out that the AI is vastly outperformed the doctors and the doctors plus AI. So that
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
crazy.
I've gone through this study briefly, and that's perhaps unfortunate situation we are in. I think there's always value in a great doctor, but you have to find one. that's that's the problem, because like everywhere there are good ones and there are bad ones. That's the reality of the situation. So choose carefully. Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. You see, there are these professions like I would contrast it with massage profession and the profession of being a doctor. So everyone wants to be a doctor, therefore the best people are becoming doctors. But when you get to massage, you see, massage could give you so much, but unfortunately, the people who couldn't make it to be a doctor, couldn't make it to be anyone else, they become the massage therapists. Therefore, the massage world becomes like a there is no way that you can find any competent masseur ever. It is so sad. Anyway, you mentioned the inflammation of the appendix. Now, something interesting is that your inflammation is not even detectable with the method that you have chosen to measure it with. And in fact, there was a point a couple of months ago when if you would have measured your inflammation with a high sensitive CRP, let's say, then you might have even overtook Michael Lustgarten, who was the first one. But anyhow, so does this systemic inflammation measure have anything to do with the appendix? So is that completely resolved for you now?
That's completely resolved. Yeah, that's finished, and there are no problems. But of course, the issue of inflammation, in my opinion, it's absolutely critical, not only for longevity, but also for practically all kinds of diseases, including or even especially cancer. So, despite me not being afraid of having like genetic predispositions, because in my parents, in both cases, this was like externally initiated, mother with, in my opinion, senseless corticosteroid therapy. And in my father's case, there was an unhealthy lifestyle, that's for sure. But it was finally mesothelioma, and that's induced by asbestos exposure. Concerning their parents, there was absolutely no problem of this kind, and in fact, my father always relied on the family tradition of dying at age 95 with with a cigarette or pipe in your mouth in the bed. Yeah,
That's how we do it in this part of the world, right?
So I don't rely on that idea anymore. Definitely not. But that's the situation. So I focus on inflammation to return to it. So especially with supplements, for example, curcumin, turmeric, berberine should be anti-inflammatory, boswellia, serrata, even MSM, methylsulfonylmethane, and so on. So all my supplement stock is, let's say, focused on quenching inflammation right away. And concerning this CRP, here doctors are like befuddled when I want HSCRP. They don't commonly do it because the difference is minimal in their opinion, and it hasn't got any clinical value. So the only company I have found so far is here it's called SynLab, and they should be able to measure it with 0.4 accuracy. So I can do it. And then maybe the national referential labs in Prague, but they also mentioned 0.3. And when confronted with this is not enough, they mentioned some Roche essays, maybe 0.2, 0.15. So that's possibly the best they can do. So maybe I will start with 0.4 and hopefully we'll see if that's enough for Michael Lustgarten to go with the second place.
that's the attitude. In the website, you have the best immune profile, which is calculated from wild blood cells, lymphocytes, and RDV. Why do you think you might have the best immune profile of everyone amongst everyone here?
Because once again, in fact, my focus is on many ways cancer, and I participate in Mark Lintern's Facebook group. He's the author of called Cancer Resolution. I can show it. I am just reading through it. So here, Cancer Resolution by Mark Lintern, quite a book. And his theory of cancer is based on so-called cell suppression theory and cancer being caused by intracellular pathogens. So, and not only that, there are other books I could mention focusing on this theme. For example, Paul Ewald's Plague Time. They are the same ideas. And even Michael Lustgarten's Microbial Burden mentions these points. So I think it's far from certain. But I don't ascribe to cancer being a genetic disease primarily. There are some exceptions. I think that cancer and many other civilizational diseases are possibly caused by pathogens, and hence my focus on immune system, because then the immune system is of absolutely critical point from this perspective, and of course from the point of longevity. So the strengthening of immune system is my primary objective. So the whole protocol is focused on it, including thymus regeneration. I am currently trying to go along with, inspired by Greg Fahey's TRIM trial. I can briefly describe it. So you can find studies, of course. It's called TRIM trial and TRIM X.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's focused on thymus regeneration, but he's using primarily HGH, human growth hormone. But I don't want to use it. It could be cancer promoting, though in trials it was without problems, at least so far. But I have made my research and I use the combination of amino acids to promote HGH release, and of course other methods like exercise, fasting, or time restricted feeding, possibly cold exposure, and also near infrared light, let's say therapy focused on the thymus. I have an old near infrared heater, so I use it daily, like for 10 minutes, focusing it on the thymus area. And then, of course, in the protocol, there are some additional things, possibly cancer protective, like DHEA, dihydroepiandrosterone. So I take it 25 milligrams a day. It should be also longevity promoting, and of course hormone, let's say, balancing or improving. So that's another point. And I also they use metformin in the study for glycemic control. I have it, but I don't use it. I think berberine is in fact superior to metformin in many ways, including cancer. So I use berberine instead. And then there are other things like zinc, collagen. So I use that too. And concerning the amino acids, because that's the main part here, I primarily use AAKG. So that's arginine with alpha ketoglutarate. And then
why is that form specifically? Why not
Why the-
AKG? For example?
I think that too much calcium can be problematic, and I don't need it. It's much cheaper, and arginine. I need arginine. I don't need calcium here. It's another point, and I think arginine has many other benefits. For example, blood pressure control, or possibly because of nitric oxide extending, let's say, blood vessels. So I think it's superior here in general, and price-wise even too. So that's why. And as I have said, I need arginine for AGH boost here, and you can combine it with other things, with glutamine. And also, so that's what I usually take in the morning before exercising, and it's also recommended to, in this context, or possibly in general, but in this context, to exercise fasted. So I do that first thing in the morning, if I can, and then also in the evening, because the major AGH release is during sleep. So I use sometimes arginine, but not now. Also lysine, ornithine. It should be also sleep promoting, and also glycine, but that's secondary. And once again, glutamine, and you can also use GABA for AGH. And possibly, if your sleep quality is not high enough, then also melatonin should be helpful. And also zinc is typically added for some AGH, or let's say thymus regeneration preferably to AGH. So these are the basics of the protocol. And the problem is how to measure it. I can measure it with like a basic, let's say, blood work and basic leukocyte or counts, white blood cells count. And I am doing it from January 2025. And so the lymphocyte count was 50%, and now the last measurement was 54. I think that's quite enough. So I decided to put, let's say, put my foot on the brake And now I am just using arginine, and I will measure it like in a week or two to see what's the lymphocyte count again. But otherwise, it seems okay. I have tried to discuss it with AI, but even AI doesn't know, of course. This is an experimental field. It can be a new biological optimal, hard to say. So lymphocytes definitely fall with age. And I have seen just a few immune profiles while looking at Longevity World Cup, let's say, numbers of others. And there are only 2 or 3 other people with lymphocytes over or around 50. Simland has 52, but he's much younger. But it shouldn't be pathological because leukocyte or total white blood cells are trending downwards. My neutrophils to lymphocyte ratio is 0.63, while a typical American has around 2. So this is also like exceptional. And of course, numbers are important, but it's not everything. It also, let's say, goes with I also go with my feeling here. And of course, I feel like in a great shape and strong. So I am not afraid that I am overdoing it. But
Mike
I am trying to
Lustgarden
balance it.
sent me or created a study where he found that all-cause mortality starts to be problematic. The best all-cause mortality is at 60%, right? And after that, it starts to be problematic. So
With lymphocytes.
with lymphocytes, and this is for female. Oh, okay. For male, it is. For male, this looks a bit differently, but for female, it's around 58%, something like that. Okay. Anyway, please continue. I'm sorry to
Okay,
stop
okay.
you in your
So that's like my very basic immune profile with suppressed neutrophils somewhere to 35%, and monocytes are also up, but they are on the upper limit. So like 10.4 was the last measurement. The upper limit here is usually around 10%. And concerning some infections, so I am exposed while at school with
Oh
teenagers,
yeah.
of course. And
Well, maybe that's your secret. That's
no.
the secret of your immune.
I think that's a disadvantage, in fact, but like with doctors. But all the infections were, let's say, localized in the nose, and it, let's say, can't progress further. So, like 2 3s, including this COVID, I had just a little, let's say, a few red patches at the back of my throat, but it just moved around and then it went away. Yeah, I was using FLCC protocol and so on, but I was like the last one at school who got it. So, including, of course, all the vaccinated. I'm not keen on vaccinations after COVID. So that's it. So to my, let's say, basic immune overview, I am trying to optimize it. So RDV, that's my weak spot in my opinion, but I move it like from 13.2 to 12. Now it was 12.4, so it's in fact more or less optimal too. But I am trying to get it down once again. So increasing the uptake of omega-3s, especially through sardines and herrings, and some supplementation. And there is some minor calorie restriction, but I wouldn't say I am really calorie restricted. I'm just on the edge of not, let's say, moving my weight, which is holding around 74 kilos, me being 185 centimeters. tall. So now if you want, we can continue with like other points, like the actual protocol with diet and things like that. Or do you have
Supplements. Let's continue with
supplements? And so
supplements.
supplements.
Just give me a. I see your. Okay, so you were talking about thymus regeneration, and you already listed like 10 supplements, right? I assume this is a small part of your entire supplement regime. Is it?
Yeah. Yes. As I have said, I am from this cancer background, unfortunately, and in this, let's say, partially alternative or metabolic approach to cancer circles, they use often as many supplements as Dave Pascoe or Brian Johnson do. So, and the, let's say, dosages are also often much higher, with, for example, melatonin being up to 200 or even 300 milligrams a night.
Wait. I'm taking 1 milligram.
Yeah.
Holy shit.
So I have seen like things maybe other people don't. So I am not that afraid. Of course, every time do your research and be definitely on the safe side. But the effective doses might be often higher than so-called recommended doses now. So concerning my supplements, so as I have said, in the morning I exercise, I make my coffee, and I put AAKG, sometimes glutamine, like around 2 grams of glutamines, 3-4 grams of AAKG. I also put the beta alanine. It's for workout buffering lactate. It also helps with the synthesis of carnosine in the body. Greg Fahey also supplements carnosine. It should be anti-aging. It should be even possibly anti-cancer. And beta-alanine is the limiting factor in the synthesis of carnosine in the body. So it's synthesized from beta-alanine and histidine. So I supplement like 2-3 grams in the morning and in the evening. And it should be more bioavailable than carnosine supplement itself. And it's much cheaper, and it has
And it
other
feels
uses.
great.
And it feels great. It tingles great. Yeah. Yeah. You know that you are supplement.
Yeah. That's the only reason I'm supplementing with this one. I just like how it feels.
Yeah. Okay. So then in the morning, I take a little bit of glycine, then let's say 2 grams of taurine, creatine, 3-4 grams, and vitamin C around a gram.
Is that your creatine for the entire day, or just your starting morning
Uh,
creatine?
It depends. Usually, I don't supplement more than this. Yeah, then now there are studies up to 10 grams, even perhaps 20 grams for cognitive purposes with creatine.
Dave
I
Pascoe said that he's taking 10 grams, but now he's considering upping it to 20.
haven't really tried it with creatine. I take more only in the case of not being well slept. Then it's recommended with glycine to, let's say, supplement for your bed sleep. So I usually stick around these 3-4 grams. Maybe if I expect a hard workout session, then I take like 5. I don't really measure it. I have it in powder, so I put it in my green tea and drink it with it. So then I use glucosamine sulfate, like 1.5 grams, and collagen around 10 grams. And then in the morning, D3 and K2. D3 usually 2000 units in summer, 4000 units in winter. K2 100 to 200 micrograms, I believe. Then this DHEA 25 milligrams, as I have already mentioned. And what else? Then curcumin with piperine, around 700 milligrams. Then lithium orotate, 5 milligrams. Zeaxanthin and lutein. Lutein 20 milligrams, believe. What else? Boron, 3 milligrams. And magnesium, usually malate, 1000 milligrams, but it's like 120 milligrams of magnesium in it. And I believe that's enough for the morning. I usually have it with my breakfast. Yeah. So, and if I should mention breakfast, I eat like things like super veggie, but I season it with turmeric or curry and other things. I also add other pieces of vegetables like bell peppers, parsley for epigenin, tomatoes, and I don't eat only that. That wouldn't be enough, and I don't eat, let's say, that much lentils. I combine it with eating fish in the morning, especially sardines or herring or mackerel, also some rye bread, and I also usually have some Edam cheese. So it's not plain and it's not strictly vegetarian. So, and then I eat things like bananas and nuts and blueberries or Greek yogurt
Still
for
with the
snacks.
breakfast?
No,
Oh, snacks.
that's like at the breakfast is usually, let's say, at 7. Then I at 10 I have this, let's say, snack or second meal, and with it I supplement niacin. I think it's much cheaper and possibly or even more effective than NMM, and for NAD production, and berberine, because this meal is, let's say, sugary because of bananas and because of possibly apples or whatever is there. So to blunt the spike of, let's say, sugar or insulin in this case. And then I have some basic, let's say, lunch at around 2 p.m. and it's my final meal. And I usually eat fish or some soybeans, tofu, tempeh. From side dishes, potatoes, buckwheat, sometimes quinoa, and also vegetables again, and fish sometimes, like, or often like salmon, cod. And so these are the main meals. And in the evening, I supplement glycine, like 5 to 10 grams. In fact, I like drink glycine with my drinks through the night because I am not afraid to drink through the night. So I drink, let's say, a tea or fruit tea with glycine through the night. And I also supplement ashwagandha before bed for, let's say, blocking cortisol or stress reduction. And what else? Sometimes ornithine, as I have said, it should also help with sleep. And sometimes not Boswellia, but Chinese skullcap, that's Scutellaria bicalensis. It should be also anti-inflammatory, but it also can help with relaxation and sleep support. Or also some magnesium, usually bisglycinate. That's another point. And also, once again, taurine. Yeah. So this is more or less my supplement stack. And also I supplement, as I have said, zinc, but that's, I believe, more or less everything. I think that's enough.
Okay, so this is awesome. You obviously are very into supplementing, and I am very into supplementing, and I recognized about 90% of what you said. So I assume people quite lost the plot here. But for those who remained, here are the extra questions. So first of all, you are from the same region as me, and I am very interested in how can I ensure the quality of my supplements? I used to not care about it. Um, you know, there are these websites, those are third party testing websites, those are testing supplements, but whenever I'm looking at them, they are not the supplement brands, those are available here. So I was just gambling. Now I have some methods of figuring out how to buy high quality supplements, but I'm wondering what's yours, or do you even care?
Yeah, there are some reviews you can find and some more or less established brands. So concerning brands, I usually use Swenson supplements or Now Foods supplements because there should be, let's say, some basic quality, or at least I believe. And I for like bulk supplements like creatine, glycine, and proteins, and so on, I use a Czech firm called For Fitness, and they have it tested in a laboratory, so it should be okay, I believe. But of course, you never know. Yeah, but I use these, let's say, established brands for supplement, and that's my recommendation. Like for a really high quality, I could guarantee like supplements from the company of Daniel Stanciu, who, let's say, is focused on cancer patients, and this company is definitely of high quality supplements, but of course the prices are higher too. So if you want to be like very sure, you can try this company, because this is definitely not fake or profit aimed. It's more or less cancer charity. And Daniel is, I would say, as close to a saint as a person can be. Also, losing his, I believe, wife or fiance to cancer very early. So it's his life mission. So this is like Daniel Stanciu supplements, Mihaela Stanciu Foundation, I think, supplements. You should be able to find it if you want. But I use Swenson and Now Foods, as I have said. And this For Fitness is a company from the Czech Republic.
Okay, all right. Thanks very much. So let me try to disagree there a little bit. One thing that I started doing is that I recognized that there are some ingredients in the supplements. Those are inferior ingredients to better ingredients. So, for example, cyanocobalamin, it's a synthetic form of B12. If the multivitamin, let's say, uses cyanocobalamin instead of methylcobalamin or adenosylcobalamin, then it's a red flag for me that that brand's priorities is probably not on quality. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Similarly, folic acid, it's a synthetic folate if they are using instead of L-methylfolate or 5-MTHF, wait, that's the same, whatever. Then it's probably the same story. Magnesium oxide, also a red flag, DL alpha tocopherol. Now, anyway, so okay, I created this list of inferior things, and I tested. Well, I asked ChatGPT to look for the red flags, of course. Of all the companies that I used, it's about 30 different supplement companies that I've used or I'm using right now, and both Now Foods and Swanson has failed in this. So Swanson is using cyanocobalamin, magnesium oxide, calcium carbonate, DL-alpha tocopherol, acetate, folic acid. And Now Foods is also using cyanocobalamin, calcium carbonate powder, magnesium oxide powder. So based on this, I put them in my blacklist. In fact, I think there is another company. I think it's from the Czech Republic as well. Jim Beam, is it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
I believe
so
so.
they are also cyanocobalamin, folic acid, magnesium oxide, and DL-alpha tocopherol acetate. But there is one, I think this is also from the Czech Republic. Only 3 companies survived my
rigorous research.
rampage. It was Do Not Age with Flying Corals. The Czech company, I think it's a Czech one, is Brain Max. Is it? Brain
I'm
Market.
not. Yeah,
No?
possibly.
Yeah?
I've
Okay,
seen
anyway.
that.
So this one and life extension. Well, it barely, but it did. so anyway, it was a huge eye-opening thing for me. Maybe I'm looking at it entirely in the wrong way, but anyway.
Yeah, I think it's necessary to avoid these, but it doesn't, let's say, mean that for example Swenson's berberine is bad because they produce also magnesium oxide. Yeah, it's up to you to avoid these traps and be aware of them. Yeah, but of course, if you can get it from real food, then it's the optimal situation. But the trouble
It's
is,
impossible.
in my opinion, it's impossible. Yeah, it's you. It's once
How do
again.
you get 200 milligram of melatonin from real food?
Yeah, that's impossible, of course. And the same is, for example, even with boron. You would have to eat like avocado 1 or 2 every day. Who does it here in Central Europe? Nobody. Yeah. So the same is with other things like NAC, N-acetylcysteine. I also supplement that like a gram a day. So you can't get everything from food, much less, in my opinion, in the optimal amount. So there is some amount that can, let's say, like with the vitamin C, it can prevent scurvy, like some minimal amount, and then there is an optimal amount, and it can be much more. According to the opinion of Linus Pauling, with vitamin C, that's in grams. So that's impossible to get from diet. And we've lost the ability to synthesize our vitamin C as a species. So it's possibly wise to supplement it somehow. Because if a monkey synthesizes 2 or 3 grams a day, monkey half our size, is 100 milligrams really enough? That's the question. The same with taurine. Even if, according to new studies, the amount of taurine isn't going down as we age, is what we get from food really optimal? It's like with the PhenoH biomarkers. I can have RDV 14 or even 15, and my doctor would say, that's okay, it's in the norm, no problem here. But we know that like 12, 11.7, 8 is really optimal. So I believe this may be the same situation here. It's one thing to get something from food and to somehow prosper, but the optimal level, that's a completely different situation. So that's my, let's say, idea behind supplementing.
Tell me about the logistics of your supplementing.
What do you mean by logistics? Like,
So, look, I personally take, let's say, half of the things that you are, and I'm already having a lot of logistical problems here. Like, I have to batch, I'm buying the supplements in batches because, well, whenever I'm out of something that doesn't fit anymore when you're talking about so many supplements, or
yeah,
I
yeah,
have to prepare for myself every week and
yeah.
stuff like that.
So I prepare it like every morning. I have it on my table ready. So that's like an automatic routine. And concerning logistics,
So every morning, okay, look, it takes me like about 1 hour to prepare my supplements for the entire week, right? So for every morning, you should be spending at least 20 minutes
no,
or
no,
half an
no, no, no. Yeah, I have it on my table and ready, and it's like 2-3 minutes for me, no more.
Okay. How can you make that happen?
As I have said, I just put it on my plate or and have it ready with my breakfast. So no problem. I have it right on the table. So
And you probably have some
I
like you know exactly how much.
yeah, I know exactly how much when I just remember it by heart now.
Oh,
So
you remember.
yeah,
You don't label
I don't
anything. You
have
just
to.
remember.
I don't.
Wow.
I don't have.
That's awesome.
So that's it. And I also order it in a bulk, and I simply check my supplies and order what's needed here and there. It doesn't take that much time, like half an hour to check it and order it. No
Mhm.
more. So I don't see it as a problem or a time consuming thing. Not really. At least at this stage.
Do you have like an experimental stock? Like you hear some stupid shit in a podcast and you order it and then you take it while it's while you still have it and then you forget about it, or you don't have this kind of things.
No, no, not really. I can hear things, but I then do my research and evaluate it, and I don't like really experiment that blindly. If I try something, I have done my research, and I know why I take it, what I take it, how much should I take. I've never overdosed on anything and never had any problems with overdosing. And I've taken some, let's say, less conventional things so far, though maybe just a few. But I'm always on the safe side. So, and of course, it's logical if it's something new, you start from low doses, from a minimum dose, and then you slowly escalate to higher doses if that's necessary. So that's the procedure.
What's your research looks like?
What my research looks like. So I, of course, I read books, I listen to podcasts, I make notes, but I also do my own research. So I try to go to the sources, to studies, and go through studies myself. Now with AI, it's easier. They can, let's say, summarize it for you, but it's definitely necessary to go, in my opinion, to go to the primary sources as much as possible. So, not relying on other opinions or recommendations. They might be the source of inspiration, but ultimately you should rely on yourself.
Okay. So I don't know about that. Look, I've been devouring the research literature of Bitcoin privacy for the last 10 years. And that's a lot. Now, at one point I started taking liraglutide, and there was one problem with that. It increased my resting heart rate quite a lot. And then I started to read the research papers. Those are only concerned about GLP-1 agonist resting heart rate stuff, and there was not much at the time. There was not many even about resting heart rate in humans. So I had to go down and read the animal the mouse literature, right? And I'm like, of course it does that, like because at the time it was like, oh, it doesn't do that in humans. What are you talking about? Now people is like, even Brian Johnson tweets about that it did that for him. So anyway, what's the point? The point is that it was really time intensive, and I was only trying to figure out one specific aspect of one fairly researched drug, right? And it took me a lot of time. So how are you able to figure out a lot of things about even just one drug? But the suggestion would be to all of it.
Yeah, it's a process. In fact, it takes years. So I, let's say, got to this field of researching things because of cancer, and now I have like a almost 10-year experience. And the fact is, the supplements used for, let's say, the metabolic blockade of cancer pathways are often very similar to those that are applied in the longevity context. So it's things like berberine, EGCG, curcumin. These are typically used. And of course, many others were like statins and metformin, of course, and so on. I have already researched a lot before getting into longevity because of this topic. So that's the point. And you can't expect to be an expert within a year or two. It's a continuous study. Yeah, that's my only position. And you slowly add things to your protocol, to your supplement stack as you research them and tweak them, collect the data if you have one from your blood tests, and it's a continuous work. Yeah, that's my position here.
All right, that makes sense. For the rest of us, there still is vibe supplementing. So
or hype supplementing.
yeah, you see, there is this vibe coding rabbit hole, right? Like you tell the AI to write a software, you don't tell much instructions, and then you see what happens with what the AI can come up with, and then you anyway. So that's vibe coding. And then I come across this term vibe marketing, and that's very interesting as well, because it's like so there is a notion that an advantage of people who are technical and knows AI and also in marketing. And so this vibe marketing is kind of like a badly named thing, that there are some AI workflows, those are underutilized but work very well. And what like reaching out to people to do a podcast, you can have an AI workflow. I didn't do that because I'm busy person. You can have an AI workflow that you one click on a browser extension that you kind of created, and they're gonna reach out automatically to that person. In fact, they do a summary of that person is this event. Anyway, so there are these AI workflow tricks, and that's called vibe marketing. And then I saw that people trying to apply this vibe words to a lot of other fields, and I'm pretty sure there is no vibe supplementing yet. So what could go wrong, you know? Okay, vibe sleeping. How's your sleep?
So, how is my sleep? So, I usually aim for 7+ hours of sleep a day. It's like 5 REM cycles. So that's my basic, let's say, objective. So I go to bed and wake up at the same time, usually pretty early, like from 7 to 8 p.m. I am already in bed and getting up also pretty early, like before 5 a.m. I like it that way. So you should have then daylight within 60 minutes of waking, and in the evening you should avoid, of course, blue lights as is recommended. I usually just read or listen to some audiobook, and the room should be definitely dark, and even you can use even sunglasses at night if you want to walk around your house or flat. The environment should be quiet, ventilated with around 18 degrees. So I aim for these sleeping conditions. Or I also sleep alone, and there is practically no noise from the street or something like that. It's a pretty quiet green neighborhood, so I can have my window more or less opened if I need it, and there is no shouting or something like that. So, as I have already mentioned, my supplements before bed, and if I couldn't sleep, like in the middle of the night after waking up, I use melatonin, like 10 milligrams, and you can also use possibly epigenin or even inositol is recommended for sleep, but I don't use that. So I don't have trouble meeting my sleep goals, but I really don't measure it with like Garmin watch or something. I don't like it to have it on me even at night. So I am more or less able to tell how long I have slept without that, and of course you feel the quality in the morning. So I don't measure it when I am already awake early, and I don't want to get up, or when I can't fall asleep during the night. I also used yoga nidra, so that's like a deep sleep inducing meditation or relaxation, and that also helps a lot. And I also definitely recommend using glycine at least before sleeping or during the night, and then with creatine for sleep deficits.
With
So
creatine.
yeah, for sleep deficits. If
So
you
what's the point? I don't get it. Why
for
creatine?
for sleep deficits, if you haven't or if you didn't sleep well, then you use glycine and creatine to, let's say, supplement for
Throughout the day.
throughout the day,
Ah,
to prevent being tired or cognitively slowed. So,
okay.
but I don't use creatine, of course, for sleep.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my protocol. I have no trouble sleeping, and I have very little trouble to meet this 7.5 plus hours a night goal as sleep. So it's like a
Mm-hmm.
night or two in a month when this is not met according to my very strict criteria. So that's my sleep routine. Of course, avoiding things like caffeine in the afternoon. I just drink a single cup of coffee right in the morning with my workout.
Right. The teacher stuck of coffee. I just implemented a new feature into the Longevity World Cup, which was that you can guess someone's age, right? And the first guesses are coming in, and you are a person who on the picture looks much younger than your chronological age. So you are chronologically 46.8 years old, and and people are guessing that you're around 39 years old. Looking younger, is that a priority for you? Are you doing some stuff that makes you look younger rather than reversing aging and immune system and inflammation?
Maybe not that much. I don't focus on looks. Yeah, it's true that students usually guess like that I am 10 or even in some cases 15 years younger, but I don't have any special rejuvenation routines besides those I've already mentioned. Just use these basic face creams in like a couple of years, 2-3 years. So usually these CeraVe face creams and body lotions and nothing special. I am thinking about trying microneedling perhaps, so that might help a little, but it's not my focus.
Have you tried to grow back your hair, or did you even lose it?
So I have shaved it like when I was 30 perhaps, and I've never been interested in it anymore. I have to say, I think it's like quite convenient to have it this way. Yeah, you have to shave it every now and then, like every few days, but that's it. So and girls don't mind too, so it's okay.
That's the important part. Okay, so you mentioned your superpowers are consistency and discipline. Can you recall your largest failure in that topic territory?
So that would be from the past, like procrastinating while studying at university, studying many other things besides the curriculum, but now I believe that's like really the thing of the past. I have my like system and identity going with it, and I don't really think about things like exercising, eating right. And I have to say, I am not even really tempted by things like junk food and alcohol, for example. I have a beer like once or twice a month, perhaps. And in the Czech Republic, that's a drinking culture. But I don't really care. And also, I can have an ice cream while going for a hike, but that's all. I have a stack of cookies here, for example, because mother was very keen, unfortunately, very keen on those. But I just have it, and so, for example, Brian says I have to throw away everything because I would be tempted to eat it or to, let's say, raid a pantry or fridge. I don't have this problem. I can take a, let's say, single box of chocolate after my final single candy from a box of chocolates after my final meal, but I don't have a problem with it. I will not take another, simply. So I am in control now. I will.
Oh, that's super zen. So you don't have a single bad habit.
I don't have
a single bad habit.
a single bad habit. I think everybody has maybe like so this tendency to procrastination in the past, perfectionism, and so single bad habit concerning lifestyle.
Yeah.
Maybe not really.
There you go. There you go. No bad habits. That seems to be the
Maybe
the theme of these
I think
conversations.
it's partially because of my experience, of my, let's say, negative experience with father's lifestyle and the ends. Yeah, so he was a positive, let's say, example in some things, like leading me to playing tennis. But then also these, let's say, negative habits of his with drinking, smoking. I didn't want to do that. And then, of course, also seeing this, let's say, hospice many times over, it's also a formative, let's say, experience. So you ask, is this really worth it? And it's not in either case, because it slows you down. So let's say, in fact, and also figuratively. So why do it? So the whole culture, in my opinion, is based on this YOLO lifestyle. You only live once, on hedonism and consumption. And I don't subscribe to that. I think there are, let's say, other points you should focus on, including things like spirituality. That's not mentioned much in the context of longevity. For example, I also study these old texts from Taoism, Buddhism, Hinduism. For example, my favorite ones are Tao Te Ching, of course,
Why?
or
What's that about?
that's the idea of the unity of the existence is crucial here. The concept of Wu Wei, of this going with the flow and not pushing things. So I also like Bhagavad Gita from Hinduism, or Avadhuta Gita. So I think this spiritual aspect should be, let's say, more stressed in the longevity field as well. And you should, and we could, let's say, benefit from it, I believe, widely. So do you need a hyperbaric oxygen chamber if you can do pranayama? Isn't it the same, more or less? That might be worth a study, for example. And of course, the positive impacts of meditation. And in general, there is a great book focused on expectation effect, and in the widest sense. So maybe the biggest, let's say, longevity leap one can expect is from literally expecting to live long. So I think there is a study that where people who expected to live long and who behaved like being younger lived up to 7 years longer than their peers. So the mindset is critical. So we shouldn't focus just on the body. The focus should be, let's say, equally on the mind, in my opinion, and the spiritual development. And according to these Eastern traditions, that's also what is stressed. So
What
that's
should I
another.
do? How can I fix my mindset in order to maximize my longevity?
Yeah, as I have said, expect to live long or longer. So set a clear goal. I want to live to 100, 120, or further. Then identify with the goal. So you are a longevity
What's your goal?
athlete. My goal, so let's say around 120 for starters. So we shall see, of course. Yeah. So on the other hand, the saying is, the gods laugh when humans make their plans. So be aware of that. Let's have a plan, but be aware of that. And let's say also there is memento mori in Stoic philosophy. So that's another thing. So you should identify as a longevity athlete and set your goals, make your protocol, and go for it, no matter what. So no matter the weather or your feelings in the morning. So that's my plan here.
That's a perfect place to end this conversation, but I'm not going to end this because I still have one more question for you. What's one thing that you strongly believe to be the case, but very few people agree with you on?
Oh, so that's hard to say. As I have said, I have a different view, for example, of cancer. Most people believe it's caused by genes. I don't believe that. I think it's a metabolic disease combined with possibly microbial burden disease. So
Doesn't matter which cancer we are talking about.
yeah, there might be some examples. Of course, it's always extremely complex. Everything is complex in the body and in the context of cancer. But I believe most of the cancers are like this, that there are these intracellular pathogens driving the disease. As I have said, your immunity is your primary defense. But if it's caused by pathogens, then people should add things like antimicrobial things, antiviral things, and even more so, according to Lintern, antifungal things into the protocol, because the main culprit, in his opinions, are in fact intracellular fungi led by Candida albicans and Aspergillus. So this is often like a forgotten area, especially in like for average doctor. Fungal pathogens are really not in the crosshair or cross sites. So you should also, let's say, focus on that with some antifungal things like oregano, garlic, and so on and so on. All and then, of course, if you are really confronted with fungi in your environment, or you are, you have like fungal antibodies in you, then you should go aggressively for it with, let's say, antifungal therapies, including azoles like fluconazole, or even better for cancer, possibly itraconazole even. So despite the possible side effects, to eliminate it. And of course, people should avoid molds and focus on the clean air in their environment and homes. I think that's another area which is underestimated, the cleanliness of the environment in general. No, not sterility, but the cleanliness, to have clean air, to be surrounded by nature, if possible, to visit green spaces, at least parks, if not forests. And I would also stress that another thing, most people agree that it's great to use cars. I don't subscribe to that. I don't have a car. I have a driver's license, but I don't use it. I walk everywhere because fortunately here everything is in a walking distance. Gyms, let's say street workouts, a stadium, libraries, everything, even my job. So I walk everywhere, so it's like 10 to 12,000 steps a day easily. So I avoid using cars. So that's another thing.
Is there anyone who's doing these crazy things with you in your immediate environment, or you're all alone?
I am not completely all alone. I live alone, but as I have said, I have lunch with my girlfriends, hopefully with my girlfriend within an hour or two. So she does some of these things with me, of course. So her regimen is perhaps not so strict as mine, but of course it's much more intense than
You're working
it's
on her.
it's usual. And yeah, but she's not that keen on, let's say, measuring or even sending biomarkers. But I think her results would be great too. Maybe not so great as mine, but great nonetheless. So she does it with me partially, and also to an extent my sister, but she has a corporate job, so she doesn't have that much time as me. I am not completely alone in this.
Uh-huh. You know, my girl gave control over her supplement supply, so every week now I'm putting the supplements in her spec. So I'm going to my evil police that I'm going to escalate it to so many things that eventually she's going to be chugging supplements like no tomorrow. Boiling a frog. Okay. All right. Well, that was amazing. Thank you very much for coming to this conversation.
Thank you very much. You are most welcome. And
Where can people find out about you?
so I have a Substack page called Zdeněk Šípek Substack. So they can find my complete protocol there. I've made an English version so they can check it out. So that's the main source of information about me. So Zdeněk Šípek Substack. So hopefully nothing complicated to find.
Perfect. Thank you very much.